Yes. Hello, everyone. yes. I'm excited to be here. I know we have been, what's the word? I know you've been waiting for us to come. We're really excited. It's been a long while since we did this. It's been a very long one. See, Albert saying, anybody home? Yes, we are home. Hello, Albert Kiria, nice to have you join us. We are home and we're excited to be doing this after a long while. Dreamrad says, first one here, be checking the page because I get confused with time differences. 7 p.m. GMT, you are right on time. It's 8 p.m. on my end. It's most likely 9 on your end, 9 or 10, depending on what part of East Africa you are in. Nice to have you here. And Mertri, hello. Is the event still happening? It has started. So, hello everyone out there watching us. My name is Oscar Michael, and I'm really excited to be here with you talking about the state of the African video games industry. And yeah, I wouldn't be doing this alone. We have a guest, we have someone who has been in the space as well on the journalism side, on the media side, on the esports side, name it. He has been following the industry closely over the years, just as I have. And we have a lot to talk and crack down, break down, discuss. And we're really excited to be here. So that's in person of Mr. I'm calling him Mr. I want him to feel very old. Chief Mr. His Excellency Stephen Ojo. Yes.
Oh
Uh,
my god. Yeah.
yeah, to those who don't know him, he's a lawyer as well.
Yeah.
So yes, you can drag him to court.
Please don't drive me to court. Please.
Yeah, so just introduce yourself. I'm sure people are dying to meet you because you're always quiet, yet you've been in the industry for long. You follow it, you analyze the market, and that's one of the things we'll be doing. So please introduce yourself.
Okay. Hello everyone. My name is Oju Steven, and as Michael has introduced, I am a gaming and esport enthusiast. That's just how I like to introduce myself. I've involved in the space from writing angle, even from the legal side and from the business side. So I've been following up with the industry, and so I'm excited to be doing this with a renowned expert like Michael. So yeah, excited to start this.
Thank you. A pleasure to be here. And David says, "What's up, guys? It's been a minute." Yes, it
Oh,
has. Yo, we've been looking for money. Sorry, it's tough. The African video games industry, every year there's a report, $1.8 billion, $5 billion. And I'm like, we are, and we are looking for money. Give us, guys, seriously. So everyone out there pushing this report, give us $100,000. Keep the rest.
this guy.
Yeah. Yes, we've been hard at work, and even you as well, David. Great stuff you all are doing with the game, Legends of Orisha. We're really looking forward to that. Last year, I saw the updates, that drumming beat, that was really, really cool. Yeah. So before we get right into our discussion today, we're just going to break it down. A lot has been happening in the industry. I think 2022, 2023, we used to have live sessions like this where we come on board, talk, but then all of that transition as we started facing, looking more on the business side of the industry. I mean, talk is good, but people need to also work, do the job. So even for us at Africa Can Make It, we started running the ACK Fellowship, the Spark Fellowship. This took a lot of our time, and for community activities, those things kind of doubled down so that we can actually look at, okay, we've been talking the games industry. My friends always tease me. Once you see me out there, the games industry is worth $200 billion. They'll be like, Oscar, give us 1 billion. And we just had to double down to say, okay, how can we really build a business, not just talk and all? And that's why we've been away. But come on, a lot has happened. The industry has shaped, has morphed, and it's time to start talking about that as well whilst we work. So yes, Kwesi says just passing through. Don't pass through, sir. Wait, we want your comments. We are going to discuss esports as well, just a little bit, of course. But the esport, the games industry, they are like cousins or brothers. I don't know, but
Yeah.
it works together. And I've seen a lot of people trying to push game dev and esport guys need to work together. African game devs should build esport games, things like that. As fate will say, yada 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 yada. And we need you here. We need you here. So wherever you're joining, we're really excited to have you on this call. We're going to get right into it. Some of the first things we'll touch on is new games. And I'll start with you, Steven. Is there any new game that has rocked your mind? Yeah, from Africa, not outside Africa. If you see anything outside Africa, you'll be in trouble. And if you don't have anyone in mind, just smile and I'll move on.
Okay, okay. I'm a little bit biased on this, and that would be like the last one that I wrote about, Adventurers from Raven's
Yeah.
Illusion Studio. And yeah, I just love it because other than just writing about it, the trans border aspect of it, where he was talking about how it was actually how they were able to develop the game, make it, and publish it to the point whereby majority of their gamers or their players are not even Africans, where they were Brazilians, Portuguese. And one of the things that really stuck with me in the interview was he said, "Oh, when we first published the game, we weren't contemplating that we have Brazilians, Portuguese people, and when they got the game out there, then they started having problem with language localization, and he was like, oh, so they had to, take the game back or something, then incorporate localization, and it just really blew my mind, and yeah, so that would just be like the African game that is for me right now. I'm just like feeling so yeah,
Yes, Adventurers is definitely one. I see I've seen the game grow. Raven Illusion, one thing they do very well is fast prototyping. They make use of the latest technology and push it. And that's a Nigerian studio. Shout out to Raven Illusion.
yeah,
Precious, I'm sure you're blushing out there like, yeah, yeah, yeah. But
yeah,
yeah, that's a really amazing one. The studio has gone on to create a couple of more exciting stuff.
yep,
And even now, they are working on a secret project in-house. I can't remember the name, but there's a current challenge ongoing on Africa Communicate with the backing of Google.
mhm,
Some PC titles are being the mobile version of those games are being created. Three
yeah,
studios were
supported.
selected, and Raven Illusion is one of them.
Woo!
Yeah,
Shout out,
yeah,
Chris. Yeah, yeah,
that's cool.
yeah.
Yes. It shows. I hear people say we should start on YouTube, guys. I'm growing old. This thing says I'm live on YouTube.
I think someone
Yes.
said showing now, so I think
Okay. Yeah.
yeah.
Yes. Yeah. For me, there's lots of games, lots of things happening, especially from the. I mean, the South African side, I'm no more like psyched once I see something new. But Nigeria has been doing a lot carrying this industry, to be quite candid. Um, Tossed Down by Fair has blown our mind.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen Tossed Down, but Tossed Down by Fair has blown our mind. It was covered in Vice. That was really, really exciting for
Yeah.
all of us. Juju
Mhm.
Games as well is doing a lot, a whole lot. They were recently covered by a magazine. Is it Marvel FX or something like that? Don't let me lie, I'm live. But Juju
Yeah.
Games as well. I'll drop the link so everyone can see it. But they've been doing a lot. They were the ones that won the game's grand pitch. And I don't know, we didn't get so much publicity for that. The only African studio to join that program, the Rabbit Residency, the only studio from Africa pitched among European studios, about six, and they came out the first last year. That was mind blowing. And even O Games in Ghana are doing so many amazing teams, especially on the STEM side. They created a game for children to teach children STEM and even links as well. So the Ghanaians, the Nigerians, I've seen a lot of games from their end recently. That is
Mhm.
cool. Like recent games that are really pushing it. Of course, Kenya has Cheza, and there are a couple of studios coming up. We're still looking forward to that. Then
Yeah.
shout out to the guys who are backed by Xbox, Kunta Content, Legends
Yeah.
of Orisa. Share this money, guys. Share this. Dimension 11 Studio Kunta content. Show us the way.
Oh my god. Yeah.
Yeah.
Box
So,
money.
Yeah, so that was one thing that was really exciting. Our game studios are getting publicity. Let's not even forget, in the community we're having this discussion about who is going to fund the games industry, considering the fact that there was this report that the music industry, Afrobeats, were funded by some illegal funds. Not a lot, just some. As Nigerians say, tintini.
Okay. Yeah.
And we were even saying maybe crypto guys would do that. And just like a week after or 2 weeks after, Juju Games and why am I forgetting the name? Gundu Interactive
Going
got
to.
supported by Super Team MG. That's like a Solana community in Nigeria. 8,000 US dollars each. Yes, that was really cool.
So they were
So
built on Web3, like Web3 games.
exactly. Yeah. And they started blowing really amazing grammar. Like, yeah, it's not a Web3 game. We just want to bring elements of Web3 into the
Nah,
game.
once you take Solana money, that's it.
I
That's
was
it.
like, yeah. But the argument they brought that was really exciting is the fact that Web3 games are not fun, right? Most times when Web3 guys build games, they're just building so that the transactions can happen.
Hmm.
But if you can bring those elements of Web3 games, the in-app currencies using maybe crypto or so, into an actually fun game, you can actually drive more adoption. And that was very good to see. So shout outs to the Solana team in Nigeria. You guys are doing great. Thanks for supporting the industry. And we look forward to seeing what that implementation looks like. Support more studios. We love that news. And yeah, so that's it on games. I don't know, for those watching, if there's any game project you're really excited about that you love, drop it down in the comments. You're going to Yeah, drop it down in the comments. Let's hear which African game you are really, really psyched about. On the VR scene, we had Closer Look VR by eMedia Interactive. Shout out to Nusa, that's awesome. We even had one by Roosevelt, who built a game and it's trended on itch.io. So, really, the African continent is shaping up. The indies are beginning to carry their weight and push it in. And yes, Luanda. Luanda is another game that is moving out there. Thank you so much for that, Streamlad. Luanda, you can check them. There's been a lot of updates on LinkedIn. I know Brian Jenga as well as a Matatsu game. So you see, guys, come on, we are doing this shit. Yes, we're doing this. That is really, really awesome. So, still
Yeah.
on the process of sharing updates. Today, we're mainly going to be touching on the industry, but I'm still in the process of sharing some updates. I see this question, which fits very well into what we're discussing. That's from Abdullahi Mogaji. Interested in game design, can hardly get a tutorial center, physical or virtual, here in Nigeria, specifically Lagos. I can take this one very quickly.
Yeah.
Mogaji, thanks for asking this question. There are lots of physical training centers in Nigeria. Okay. um and that flows into some of the things I wanted to speak about: incubation centers, game development training centers. We have, what's the name, Kucheza has training for people who want to learn Unreal Engine, and you can go in there and learn game design, game development, whichever. Gamer also recently launched the Gamer Labs, which is really exciting. They are That's Unilag, right? So they have a gamer lab. If you want to learn game design, game development, you can go down there. We run the Spark Fellowship, but we're not currently running any program. We're wrapping up the one we were doing, because for us, I mean, it's not just about learning. It's when you learn, what are you going to do? Where are you going to go to? And we're really more focused on the business side. And there are many more programs out there. In South Africa, the Academy of Arts recently launched their incubation program that's going to run for like 9 months. Um, this is remnants as well of the Games Hub Senegal, run by Gaha Studios. That's for people in Senegal. So this is Abdullah's question, but I'm also, in case you're in another country, you're thinking where you can learn. There's Game Hub Senegal in Senegal. In SA, there's Sai Institute, there's WITS University, there's Academy of Digital Arts. And yeah, even in Kenya, there's ADMI. I know we have Polycrest University, where you actually learn game design development and you get a certificate that gives you like vocational training institute and you get your skills. But Outside all of this, one key thing I want you to know is you can really just learn game design online, and the best way to learn game design is by doing game design,
Yeah.
right? Not by learning. So, and as David also said, join game jams so you can learn those courses online. There are tutorials, there are links. Subscribe to our newsletter. Actually, we're going to be sharing a resource bank where you can learn a lot of that. And the best ways of learning is by doing. So learn online. You don't necessarily need to join that, but you can join communities for support. The Nigerian games industry has a game dev community on WhatsApp. We have a community on Discord. You can join. You meet other people outside Nigeria. But the best way to learn is to go and start doing. Join game jams. Gway Studio has a game jam currently running. Learn game design online, design a game, fail, learn again. Before you know it, you get good at it. Yeah. Thanks for that, David. David, our mentor, our chief mentor. And Medri says we learn as we go, 100%. And we never stop learning. Surely, with the way technology is moving very fast, very, very sad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So the next thing I want to say, we're getting there, guys. Just hang in there with us. I believe you're enjoying this. Yeah. Let's before we go into the report, right? Let's talk about this industry. You know, we came here saying African games industry, and even my company, our organization, our committee is called Africa Comic. But I've come to learn that Africa is not Africa. Oh. There's this thing called MENA region, and And this MENA region includes North Africa, and North
Mhm.
Africa is very much Africa and not Africa. Maybe that's why they call it North Africa. Like it is in Africa, but it is not Africa, even though it's
Yeah.
in the north of Africa.
That,
And there's a lot of opportunities for that side. What's your take on the North African games industry? Somebody like Sony has a program that is for them, and we have like three amazing studios. Games Emit is one I know very well from Egypt that I'm part of that program. But people in sub-Saharan Africa don't really take that. What's your take on this? Is it yeah.
yeah. I think from a I was just really David. From a like a business angle, like the Northern African market, they gain a lot by being mixed with the Middle East, right? Because as everyone will know now, like the Middle East is where everything is hot in terms of UAE with the money influx. Right now, UAE they are really taking gaming serious. Saudi Arabia they're taking gaming serious. So when business leaders or people that are doing, let's say, insight around the region, they kind of couple them together, and so you have you tend to then have like a mix of will I say commercial insight that is like, oh, okay, this is nice. So for example, Riot, they will tell you they are involved in Africa, but really it's just not Africa, right? And they gave rest of Africa Sava, that's true carry first, but really, what is really happening with regards to that Sava, right? So, and so that's why Riot is operating largely in just like North Africa because that's where a lot of the commercial revenue, all the commercial insight, like are focused there. And another thing I've also realized is the market also kind of like treats different aspect of what is prevalent like in other regions, like the sub-Saharan region. So for example, PC game might be it will be a big thing in the Northern African region compared to like the sub-Saharan Africa region because the penetration and every other thing that's needed, the resources like the equipment to actually play these games are easily, accessible there. And the proximity to the Middle East region, opens them for all other kind of like uh what is it? Without really fun. Okay, and all other, commercial avenues and everything. So I get my take is just the North African region, is kind of, will I say, it's part of Africa, but in terms of commercially, how you look at it, you don't tend to like put it or subsume it under the rest of the region because then when you bring it together, it then shows like some commercial like differences and the reality is just not the same. So yeah, I would just say that's just my take on the North African region.
So is this like legal or corporate speak? Because all I hear you saying is just we are broke.
But yeah,
So,
on this call, I'm talking more because I'm more business oriented. So I'll leave you
okay.
gaming. I'll leave you. Oh, they produce this game. They produce that game. But in terms of like, yeah, what actually drives this conversation? It's all business.
Yeah.
So, for example, in EAFC, for example, um, currently the northern side is like experiencing a lot of like development. The what's the name of this guy now? Ex Charif or something. The last guy to actually go far in in the FIFA is EFC World Championship. From Morocco, and even the government, even the stakeholders are actually pumping in a lot of money into this development. So I would say the proximity also to the Middle East also helps because believe it or not, they get some kind of support funding just being
Yeah.
close to Europe and Middle East. So it's kind of different because for example, if you're talking about Sabah now, it's to bring a server to sub-Sahara or the rest of Africa is like so difficult. But for example, if you want to bring server to North Africa now, you can take it to Morocco and say, well, it serves the whole of Europe or something. So there's that proximity is just something you just can't yeah, it's just like an inconsistency with the rest of Africa. So that's just it.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot for sharing that insight into the market. So I guess
Mm,
we can now with this go into the industry reports.
yeah.
Once there was a time where nobody knew about the games industry, and then we started having a lot of people making that effort. We started having blogs, platforms, writing articles just to promote it. And shout out to everyone. This has really been a collective effort. From the guys known like Games Industry Africa, which we can call like the big guys in reporting, because
Mhm.
most people that's where they go to for information on the games industry, to those not fully known, right? But
Mhm.
who are really at the forefront of pushing it. Squid Magazine, Gasbros Gaming, Esport Africa News, Afro Gamer, Nexal Gaming. You all, even Wendy at it, she has her own personal blog as well, and
Blog.
she
Yeah.
has written for most of the top leading blogs. And I know there are many more that I might not be aware of, but these guys have been at the forefront of telling the stories of us, the creators, the community leaders, the game developers, the game studios, and you've helped us build what is becoming an industry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't say we have a full-fledged industry yet,
Mhm.
but at least it's no more a community or a group of friends.
Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
call it a sector now because things are beginning to take shapes. There are
Like the Afrobeat
associations.
sector.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
it's now Afrobeat industry.
There you go. Afrobeat industry. We'll come to that later. We'll come to that later because like that's like a nice segue. Because
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So let's start with the report. A couple of people have done a lot of reports.
Mhm.
I think I shared it in my previous newsletter from even the one Thomas Shiva did too. I found one done like 2010, 11. That was way back. That was really awesome. By I think Dennis Mbutai, where he was talking about the African games industry.
Wow.
But some of the key reports right now are
Mhm.
from I think we can start with games industry Africa. I really loved that report. That report
Yeah.
was mwah,
So good. So good.
awesome. Yeah.
I wish we had this version for like mobile also. So you
Yeah,
just
we can push for it.
yeah.
Because with video games inside, I'm sure they are also interested in this. Yeah. So this gives you, if you've not read this, you really need to read this. This is
Mm,
an awesome report. It gives you insight into, and since they have it as PC edition, I'm sure they are coming out with the mobile edition. So
yeah.
we cannot wait for this. It tells you the state of the indie market, African games on Steam, unit sales performance, player insight. This is data. This is data. And you've gone through this, right, Steven?
Yeah. Yeah, I have.
So yeah, take us through this, man.
So I think the first thing everyone just needs to know is this report actually gives insight into the PC market, and it's really really eye opening because it kind of confirms some of the, will I say, observations I've had over time without even data. Now data even further now validates what I've been saying. So for example, in the whole of last year, according to this data, Africa, we only released about 16 PC games in the whole of 2024, and most of these games, when like the studios were able to crack more than $5,000 in revenue, right?
Mm.
And this data even went as far back as 2020. From 2020 to 2024, I think the total number of PC games released by African studios are not more than 50, you know,
Yeah.
and most of the revenue is coming from South Africa. So
Of course.
that's also something to look into. Most of the revenue is coming from South Africa, and the volume unit, per unit sold on Steam is about like 80,000 for like the topmost game from last year.
Yeah.
But one thing I would want everyone, the side I would want everyone to really focus on is the side that talks about the percentage of, will I say, if you scroll down, the percentage of players that actually come from the continent, and the percentage of the player base for these games, the regions it comes from, because this insight now gives a lot of like eye-opening observations for different studios.
Mm.
Because the first thing I noticed is, of all the games that sold last year, the first one, Anger Fruit, which was
Yeah.
about 70,000 units sold,
Hmm.
we had only 0.6% players from Africa. Out of 77,000 sold, only 0.6%. The remaining top four, like 1 point something percent, 0.2%, and like that, you have that. Then, of course, when you already see 0.6%, you already know that if we're talking about the region, now
Yeah.
this is the part that talks about region. A large majority of the gamers come from the North American region, then to the European region. So, what this tells me is, if you are making a game for Africa, you've lost it already. You're on the wrong side of business right now.
Hey,
So if you're
easy.
making PC, talking about PC, that's just the legit truth right now. If you're making
This
a
is
game for
data.
Africa, yeah, it's
Yeah.
data. It's
Not
not
feelings,
it's
not
not
emotion.
feelings, it's not conjecture or anything. It's data. And I think the average price point was about between $9 to $14. So
Yeah.
basically, African gamers can't even afford a game that is between $9 to $14. Or either we can't afford it, or we don't even know that these games are available, or maybe because this data is gotten from Steam, it's just hard to actually access games from Steam. There are like different reasons why this could be so.
Yeah.
So, but one thing this one thing this shows are two things. One, it could be a problem of distribution, which is, do we need an alternative for Steam, or do we need an Africanized Steam? That's one
Mm.
question. So because um I don't know if $10 or between $9 to $15 is a price point that is so hard to achieve, because if you can't achieve that in Africa, then what are we doing? Let's just decouple the gaming industry and just say we're an exporting thing if we can achieve that price point. But I believe that that's not the case. That's
Yeah.
not the case. And so the second one would be, if we can have an alternative Steam or an Africanized Steam, what then should be the focus in terms of like distribution? Because now we have a large percentage of our consumers are actually not even based in Africa, but based outside of the continent. So should how do we reimagine distribution for games locally? So those are the two questions that this data insight, or this report from GIA, actually brings to stakeholders. One, is it a problem of distribution? Is it a problem of platform? Do we start to reimagine different platforms? And two, do we start to reimagine distribution and what that would look like? And I think this is something that I spoke to you about.
Yeah.
Also, I said look, this is something that the African music industry is currently thriving on. And, that's why I said I would also kind of look at it as a segue, into that Afrobeat talk that we were talking
Mm-hmm.
about. Because if you look at, so I actually read a lot about the music industry because it gives me a nexus insight to how you can apply it to gaming. I know they are very different industry, but they're
Yeah.
similar story. There was a time when music in Africa, in Nigeria, was just there, like nothing. It was not until the time of the Don Jazzy started to reimagine distribution,
Yeah.
reimagine, okay, how do we get all of our music. And it just didn't start with reimagine all these things. The music quality also had to change. The Rema started to reimagine, okay, how do we infuse, Afrobeat with something that kind of resonate with Europeans. So these are some of the thoughts that needs to start to come into play, right? Because now if you have a data set like this that shows that for a large percentage of our consumers are in North America and in Europe, only 0.2% of game African gamers played my game, then I start to reimagine how that would look like. So that's where the Afrobeat thing comes in. And I kind of wrote an article about that for the GIA, where
Yeah.
even the films industry is the same thing. The music industry is the same. So now what happens in the film industry is there was a movie that was released on Netflix. I can't remember the name, the Nigerian movie. Guess what?
Mm.
Majority of the viewers were from South Korea, US. Not even 1/4 came from Africa. And so that's why you now see a lot of African film producers. They show their movies in Cannes Festival,
Yeah.
International Film Festival, because that's where the money is coming
It's
from.
yeah.
So I call them the trifecta of entertainment. You have music and you have film. This is
Mm-hmm.
the model. Gaming has to catch up. Gaming has to move, to that space. And there are ways this can be done. Of course, these are some of the things that I've also discussed about with you. And if anybody wants to talk, we can take this offline. But if I start to talk about that now, probably won't leave this
Yeah,
place.
yeah.
So
We need to break this down because there's a lot, and I can see the comment section
yeah,
blowing up like that. This is what we want. Yeah, this is definitely what we want. So no worries. After this session, we're going to have like a Twitter space in the coming weeks where we can also interact. But I love what I am saying.
yeah.
Yes. Benki says, and that 1% will be largely North Africa and
And South
South
Africa. Yeah,
Africa.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Also, Dreamrad is speaking about purchasing issues, saying his country has forex issues. To get payment with paper, you have to go to the bank to get stuff done. I see how that can be very difficult. Colin says an African Steam. Interesting. And Dreamrad says yes, African Steam with African payment gateway. And Banky adds localized price points. This is very key because even
Mm,
in our community, VCD was speaking about it. Localized pricing. The same way we are telling global companies to localize the price of games for us, why is it that African game developers are not localizing the price of games for their own people? Again, we are like, we want localized software. That is
mm,
what is making Zoho as a company going very far across Africa. Global software, localized pricing. And
mm,
but it seems African game devs or even gamers are crying for it. We want server, we want this, but we're not doing it for ourselves. And yep, we definitely need. So let me. This is from Dancy. We definitely need our own platforms that support currency,
yeah,
our local currency. So let me start from here. Let's start touching base on this because this report was shout out to Vic Vasi and everyone at
yeah.
VG Inside.
Wonderful
Uh,
report.
this is awesome. So the first thing we can say is number of release. One thing I've learned working with the developers also is the time it takes for them to release a
Yep.
PC game that is even worth paying for. Which is why even at Africa Comicade, we decided that from this year, the Gamerton becomes biennial. We're not going to be doing the Gimaton event every year again because you do it this year, next year is most likely the same game because the developer is really
Still
still
working
building.
on. Yeah.
Yeah. And as you know, events does not directly correlate to downloads. Events are mainly like play testing sessions, networking sessions. You are most likely not going to get 3 million downloads unless you gamify your activation. Maybe you bring popcorn or t-shirt or stickers and say, yeah, download my app.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then when you take download and you give them maybe pop socket or a gift item, and then you now have to look at really your cost of acquisition. Because in those kind of scenarios, what happens is people just delete the app right after they leave that place. I've
Mm.
been to so many events like that. Oh, they're giving ice cream. Download. Once you collect the ice cream, delete.
Yeah. Retention problem. That's a
Exactly.
retention problem.
So
Yeah.
I think the first thing here we are saying is we don't have a lot of funding in the industry, and we're still working with small teams. The team size has increased over the years, trust me. But then, because they're still working with small teams, development time as well, most people are spending so long on their game. On the outside, we are feeling like they are bloating their games. On the inside, they feel like no, they need to add it more features so that people can find value in their game. So now I'm the devil's advocate for the developers. Another reason here why the Nigerian numbers spiked and is not so high is I'm sure most people know as a Nigerian, publishing your game on Steam
Yeah.
it's something else.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you don't know somebody, you're not going anywhere.
You must publish through a third
Yeah.
party. Yeah.
And then what that also means is there are some games made by Nigerians that cannot be captured because in the past, Nigerians have had to use friends or collaborators in Canada, in US, in South Africa, in anywhere, Kenya, to actually set up their Steam accounts.
Yeah.
So this is another thing that we can now look at, that there are even some made by Nigerian games that will not be captured as Nigeria because they are registered with another region, looking at the limitations Nigeria has as a country. So when you look at development time, when you look at lack of funding, when you look at company restrictions, regional restrictions on the nation, maybe we can put this into perspective. But it's also interesting to see how the increase in PC games is coming up. Also looking at the fact that I think another thing that spiked this, just some insight, is I think the Unreal Engine fund really affected this spike, considering the fact that Unreal Engine was also giving out grants to game developers who are building PC games.
Mm.
Let's note also the games industry Africa had the GIA prototype grant for Africa, and I think they funded about 10 studios with good prototype funding. These are things that help people move because let's be candid, building a game is not easy.
At
Yeah,
all.
so I just wanted to share that on behalf of the game developers so that people really understand what is going on. But you've mentioned some key things.
Yeah.
Where is our market and how do we tackle the distribution challenge?
Yeah.
In music, distribution is an issue. I think Burna Boy was trending this week when he trashed his Nigerian fans. Did you see that tweet?
Yeah, but that's how we operate, across board, right?
Yeah,
It's like if you get if you get 1 million subscribe streamers from Nigeria, and if
yeah.
you just get 100K from Europe, that 100K beats
Beats the 1
1
million.
million. So
Yeah,
it's like, but then again, he kind of just didn't get the whole point because a lot of people, like I said, I like read about the music industry just to understand gaming. It's just a weird thing that I have. But somebody broke it down and said, well, even though you want to trash the local guys, but it's the virality, it's the trend, it's the challenges that these local guys do. Then those ones abroad be like, oh, okay, this Lao dance makes sense. Who created
yeah.
it? It's the local guys that created. We create that virality, and
Mhm.
then it picks up there. So that's what is lacking currently in the gaming
Yeah,
space in
the
Africa,
vibe.
right? There's no
Yes,
connect between the virality of a game locally and then the consumption, abroad. Because
yes,
whether I like it or not, that's where the distribution has to go. Like we've
yeah,
not gotten to that part of the distribution yet. I'm
yes, yeah,
almost so sure. So yes,
yeah. yeah,
That's what Burna Boy was talking about.
I like that, and I think in the group that was mentioned as well. They said Africa can give you. I've forgotten the word. I think it was social capital. I think it was even
Yeah,
social capital, and you need that social capital to be discovered,
yeah.
especially as you don't have the marketing budget of Riot Games or these other guys. Go and check how much you spend on Candy Crush monthly. Your mind would blow. In fact, that money they spend monthly on ads is what is our top goal in terms
Top
of
revenue.
profit and
And
revenue.
and you know the funny thing, Oscar, you know the funny thing, all the reports I've been reading,
Mm,
globally. So I read like Sense Tower, um, um, app. What's the name of this other one? But like I read a lot of report, and one thing just keeps popping up: discoverability. It's always a problem. The report I read from Sense Tower said, mobile games, like one of the key problem is just discoverability. Especially for hybrid casual and hyper casual games, which is
yeah,
where
yeah,
African gaming industry operates. Like we don't operate in mid core games I would say casual. We don't operate really in casual. It's between hyper casual and hybrid casual games that we operate. And the major problem for these regions or this sector is discoverability. And it's not just even an African thing globally, because every year games are being churned in, and now it's getting worse because, of course, everyone that reads about the gaming industry knows that there's like a wave of layoffs and restructuring
yeah,
and yada yada. So what does that mean? With waves of layoffs and restructuring, it means that more indie studios, because the developers from these studios that are being let go, they might say, "Oh, I need the project to just keep going." So now there are more and more indie studios coming up, or just freelance projects, and then the
mhm,
market is being pumped in with more what's it called now, more games. So discoverability is the major problem. So that's where, you know a measure of virality, and then, if your game somehow just becomes viral, then the real consumers, the real people that can pay for the games, really, they get to see
yeah.
it and say, oh wow, this is a cool game. Okay, then that's how it works.
Interesting, interesting. I really like that. So yeah, even if I mean, what we're basically looking at here is for all game devs. Yes, you still need the African market. They can push you,
Yeah,
especially Nigerians. Nigerians, they say we are loud. Yes,
yeah,
we are very loud, and we can push you very, very far. You
yeah.
need to be discovered, especially as you don't have that marketing budget. Yes.
True.
Someone asked for the reports. I've shared that of the Malion, which is the next one to go. But for this one, it's by Games Industry Africa. I've just dropped the link. You can check it out to get access to the report. And NYC African Movies says, Steven, you are referring to the movie The
Yeah,
Black
Black
Book.
Book. Yeah, yeah. That's the majority came from South Korea. So yeah,
Yeah. and
yeah.
and Benki just straight up insulted us that 20K is going to be 0.1% on the economic. He called it economic ladder. You
For
guys, the way you insult our brokenness in Africa, he
no,
says it's 0.1% on the economic ladder for spending on. What am I supposed to do with this grammar? Just say we cannot afford it. What do you
that
call it?
that
Economic
government,
ladder.
that government. But well, I guess when we get to mobile, we can maybe talk about that. But another thing I found really interesting is looking at data. Nigeria is just a $10,000 per month spending industry. Like that's just, I don't even know how. Like in a month, total amount spent on games is about $10,000.
Wow.
Whole of Nigeria. You can check it on Games GIA. Monthly report. I found that to be just very very
Interesting.
interesting. Yeah, like 10K for the whole of Nigeria. So you can start to
But
see, some of
But
the
but what about the Call of Duty guys, the esport guys? Yeah, these guys that play Call of Duty, Candy Crush.
all their spending amounts to just $10,000 in spending monthly in Nigeria. GIA report last year. I read it. Except if
Okay.
that report, but like I said, I read
We
reports.
will come back to that.
We'll come back to that. I read
Because
reports. So
these
it's a
Call of
10,
Duty guys that are always making noise.
all
No?
of them $10,000. They don't spend more than $10,000 in a month in Nigeria. That's
Wow.
it. All
Wow.
of them together. Call of Duty, PUBG, Coin Master, everything. Yes. they don't spend ten
We'll,
thousand dollars.
we'll come up to that. We'll come up to good data. But this is nice. This is exciting.
Yeah,
Now, because and just to wrap up on what you mentioned as well on the economic side, looking at even streams, right? What you get
mhm,
from stream. It's the same in mobile. You hear people talk of CPIs and the likes.
yeah,
Ad spend in Africa is not a lot. So
yeah,
what you get from ads showing in Africa is very little, very, very little compared to what you get from ads displayed to users in the US and all. So
yeah.
this also speaks back to the global appeal. Really, it's not something emotional. If you are building to be profitable, even Iroko TV created local content for global distribution, right? This
Yeah.
is the strategy. Netflix as well, local content for global distribution. You see how Amazon left? Even if you have the money, you might just burn cash. And I follow Mary Logan on LinkedIn, where I follow a lot of her reports. She also spoke about even how this is also affecting the movie industry,
The
the
movie,
film
yeah,
industry,
yeah, yeah.
and how creators are now beginning to diversify, creating their own content, distributing themselves on YouTube. And now that is even paying more compared to distributions like cinemas or the other likes because it's not easy. So let's hit on distribution. For
Mhm,
those who don't know, a lot of people have tried to tackle the distribution problem in
yeah,
Africa. So if you are saying an African STEM, it's not a new idea. It has been done,
yeah,
redone, and it
yeah,
is being
yeah,
done again.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Just a walk back. I remember, I think around 2017, we had Afric Games. Then there used to be the West Africa Gaming Expo run by Doyin Ogundoyi. I don't know if that's his real name. I think I've mixed it. But we had Afric Games, which was like a platform you can discover African games. And that did not really go. So that might maybe tackle the ideology that we are looking for a platform for Africans by African, right?
Hmm.
But then recently, the next I think that really blew up was Gway.io. By the way, they are back and they are better than ever. So Gway actually had Gway was the itch.io for Africa.
Mm,
That was its positioning. Gway.io, itch.io. Even for us, African Communicate, when we started our game jams, we did it on itch.io. By 2021, I think our next jam, 2021, 2022, we did it on gway.io as well, because we have to support. If we don't use our product, who will? Are we expecting anyone from outside? And then we have gway.io, we have the Gaha store, we have Full Games, we have Playverse Africa. So you see, and everyone is trying to tackle it.
yeah,
Gaha has been doing a lot, sharing a lot of case studies, insights, trying a lot
yeah,
of things. Gaha has run ads for some games. They've done billboards and he shared his insight. Like Teddy is really amazing guy. Is doing a lot of work, researching, learning, and sharing
yeah,
that information, which is something most of African stakeholders don't do. They
yeah,
hoard the information, but
yeah,
Teddy has a blog where he's telling you, I did this, this is what I got. And
yeah,
shout out to him for sharing that publicly. And recently, he just signed an agreement with Trace with the hope of using mainstream media, music, entertainment to promote games. So
yeah,
if people, because Africans already love and consume music, what if we are putting ads of games in that platform they are used to? Just as some African stakeholders like Honest Chronicle has been able to harness TikTok to market its game,
yeah,
right? That's something they are doing. So the distribution problem,
yeah.
yeah,
I think. Do you want me to go? Do you want me to
yeah,
just?
please go on.
Yeah, I think so. For me, what I want to say about, I know like there are a lot of problems to fix. Like I read a lot of from Gara. I also know about Jiwe, but I think the first thing first, like I said, I read a lot about the music, mostly music, but sometimes film to understand the gaming industry. Right. The first thing that has to change is what exactly are you promoting or what games are you making, right? Because that plays a fundamental role. And there's an idea I have in mind, but I'm not going to reveal much of that like on this call. But there are ways that these games, and when I say the kind of games, like people already say, oh, we can't make quality games. Like I'm not even talking like triple A games. Of course, I know we operate within the hyper casual and the hybrid casual, but these games have to tell certain stories. They have to appeal certain ways to people, right? So, like you mentioned, I also work in the media space. Of course, I won't say the company I work with.
Yeah.
And every day I see the impact, like you telling a story in a certain way plays in the minds of people. Like we could see, like literally, let me give you an example. You could see something happening, like, oh, something happened in sport, blah 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 blah, boom, and you just see the news and you're like, okay, this is. But then if you dig deep, you see, oh, an African had something to do with it, just maybe a tiny bit, maybe 10% of that story is just African. But that 10%, depending on how you sell it, it appeals to me as an African. It appeals to you as an African. And then I'm interested in the news. I'm like, okay, what exactly are you talking about? Right. So there's a way that that has to start to look like from, you know, African gamers to actually appeal to the people that can pay or that
Yeah.
have that resources to actually, interact with your game, commercially and every other aspect of it. So I would say from for me, what I've seen is the games that we are having now don't resonate with these people on that level because we are only operating at an hyper casual and hybrid casual. So those games need to speak in a certain way. I already know what I'm thinking about because recently I had a discussion with like a group of Ghanaians who are from different countries like across Europe, Asia, and some of them were saying, oh, for example, one guy was like, ah, shit, I miss playing this game, Ludo, for example,
Mm.
and I was like, okay, I'm starting to spew some secret. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
because we were watching Squid Game together, and I was like, oh, wow, I actually miss playing this game. Wow, imagine like Ludo. Imagine if this was like Ludo and it was Squid Game, and I was like, okay, that's something, right? So, but then again, I know people will be like, oh, but so many games have come, like it's like Ludo and something. So why didn't they?
What King, Ludo King, Ludo
Working.
Princess.
But then again, it still ties to, even if you have that distribution channel, you need to create a game and you need to sell a story
Yeah.
around that appeals to people. So I would say if you look at the music industry, it's the same thing. Check the quality of music prior to 2010, 2011, 2006, 2005, and then like check how the music was. There was no Rema doing Calm Down. Like, did you listen? You see how Calm Down is like a mixture, a fusion of
Yeah.
Afrobeat and some Caribbean or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but you see Rema kind of is mixing it up. Okay, what is this going to look like? Burna Boy, the same thing. He's mixing it up. What is this going to look like? Afrobeat fusion with this. So you see all of these artists, they are trying to, crack that open. And now in the film industry, we have this saying that there's this new era of Nollywood. So look at the movies. I remember the movies I used to watch when I was growing up. It was just there, traditional settings and
Yeah.
not too much in the storyline. But look at the
They
movies
lock
now.
men in bottle back
Yeah,
then.
yeah, but look at the movies now. It's undergoing the mix. It's undergoing the mix, and so I would say, looking at it, bringing it to the gaming industry, there has to be a reimagination of what our games will look like and the stories it tell. You don't need to be a triple A game to actually speak to the minds of people that you want to actually play the game, right? So and how do you start this? You start with building communities, bridging communities. Okay, how do we have a community that bridges the gap between North America, many, but between North America and Africa,
Yeah.
things like that. And there are already existing communities, that are in place right now. But how do we reimagine the games and the content that we build to actually appeal to these people? Because the reason it has to be so is those people, well, let's just say for now, commercially they are empowered, right? But
Mm-hmm.
guess what? We are the ones, or the studios back home are the ones receiving it. That's also like an empowerment. So, for example, if you have a studio in Nigeria, for example, that is in profit, you're churning out 15K in profit or 13K dollars in profit. That's a start. That's something. That's
That's huge.
empowerment. That's
Yeah.
good. That's good because even though it's not too much like the activations and something, but 10K in profit, that's a lot. So minus all your deductibles and everything.
Yeah.
So that's what we need to do with the distribution. Guys like you can now look at, okay, what would the platform actually look like?
Look like,
Because
yeah.
but for me, be just before we actually get to the platform, we need to imagine the kind of games. Because if I'm just playing a game that is just about a guy running, jumping bosses,
Hey, hey, hey,
why
hey,
do I need
hey.
to do?
You have to shade us with
No, no,
endless
no, 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 no.
runners.
I'm not saying to a
Oh,
particular game though. I'm just saying it in general. Like I'm not as a what's it called now? If I'm in the diaspora, if I'm in North America, why do I need to play a game of a guy jumping bosses? Like there are variations of that game,
he's
right?
wearing Ankara.
This is when I no, I don't need to do that. But if there's a story, right? If there's a story like I don't want to say this without dropping some secret, but if
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
like a story behind it, like this guy is running through, let's say the new metro that was built in Lagos is like, oh, you're trying to know how the metro looks like, oh, this is the new infrastructural Akin Apoporo. Like, okay, Aki Aboboro, I remember that game, and I think that's like the game that has come to mind. But that's a good game, but it's just lacking in why do I have to play that game? Like, okay, I like Aki Aboboro, so I might just play it once and that's it. I'm done. But if
Fan
it
service.
that's
It's
it,
the way Marvel just brings up the old family.
yeah,
Oh, but it's just that it doesn't drive retention or it's
it
not
doesn't
done
drive
right
retention.
properly. Yes,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think we're getting there. Enough shading us off your mic.
So yeah, so like it needs to have a story. It needs to have a story. So working in media and legal aspect of it and everything, I understand the effects. Trust me, if you give me something to sell to you, like a story, that's a random story that is just like it doesn't have anything to do. Maybe it just has 10% to do with Africa. By the time I cook it, I craft it, you're going to
Hmm,
be like, wow, I was never even so you know affected by this story, before. So it's like, that aspect is just missing.
it's missing.
And
Yeah.
then we need to reimagine the kind of content. Like I said, if you build a game about the new Lagos state infrastructure, this the way it looks and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
like you might just look at it like, what is so special about the game? But maybe I'm somewhere I'm homesick. I'm like, what is even going on in Lagos these days? I
Yeah.
see that again. I'm like, it takes me through a day in the life of a Lagosian jumping the metro. I'm like, okay, okay. And it's like,
Idea,
because
idea.
I'm already giving you guys
This
ideas.
is public
Yeah.
information, no IP, no NDA.
So it's like
Cut, cut.
I'm already giving somebody in Sweden or wherever you are
An
an
inside
idea
joke.
of what it is to be a Lagosian in 2025, which you left maybe Lagos in 2023, you're homesick. So
Yeah.
I have a reason to come. I finish work 9 to 7. I'm like, okay, let me just I have a reason to actually play these games every day. And then you can add monetization strategy and all of this. I'm not saying it has to be this kind of game, but you already get the point I'm making. Now,
It's
when
true.
that is reimagined, then we can now say, okay, what are the platforms or what are the avenues we can use to move this game back and forth? And like I said, this is not rocket science. It's what is currently happening in the music industry, in the film industry. Listen, I've been privy to like the distribution process of music, and I was like, wow. You just
Wow.
think, oh, Rema just
It
drops
takes a
and
lot.
just there, right?
Yeah, it
The
takes a lot.
communities, the people. Somebody in Washington is going to a party on Friday. He has the song of Rema or an upcoming, he's playing it at a club or a bar there, and people are like, "Oh wow, this song makes sense." You go, you see a video online of a DJ playing
Yeah.
Charlie Poppy Lao in Madrid. You think that's just random? No,
Random.
it's
No.
it's not, and
Strategy.
it's strategy. So all those things have to come into play, like an integrate. So I call it an integrated ecosystem. We don't have
Mm.
that in gaming, and that needs to be in play because the film industry they have this. It's clicking.
Yeah.
Even though it's maybe not at the highest level, but it's clicking now. The music industry, oh my god, it's just like automatic. Like I've been privy to this distribution process, and I'm like, what? I
Wow.
just thought Rema would just drop song, and Rema is
Is
no
yeah.
somebody somewhere in Barcelona is
It's
going to
pushing
club
it.
on Friday to push it.
Push it.
Give the
Yeah.
DJ, let me play this. So it's like that virality,
Yeah.
has to help with the discoverability and so. Those are the
Man,
models we need to
you've
start thinking about.
you've dropped a lot of gold nuggets and insights and a lot, because this is something that even I know is missing. Um, Down to the development process, there's a
Yeah.
lot that happens before you even start building a game. Like, why should you build this game? And
Yep.
I do know this is hugely missing on the continent, because yeah, a bulk of them are still driven by passion or inspiration. Oh, I want to make a game like this, or I want to tell a story. But even
Mhm.
when it comes to storytelling, what I've learned in my years, even also researching, is, in Africa, there seems to be this push for, when we are writing stories, we want to be, is it culturally accurate? Whereas we
Mm.
forget this is media, it's make believe.
Nobody.
Pocahontas is make believe. This the real story of Pocahontas, the real book of Pinocchio, the real book of Romeo and Juliet. When they rewrite it, it's what makes it fun,
Yeah.
and they still try to pass the message across. Shout
Yeah.
out to the guys at Kizazi Moto. I read the story of, was it Moremi, that version of Moremi, and
Yeah.
the way they retold it with the electricity, her having a child that she has to charge the art to another body, that was mind blowing. That was not the story I grew up reading. But when I saw it in this form, it was modern and it was much more exciting.
Yeah.
But we have small budgets. Now, once more, I'm the advocate for the game devs. We have small
Yeah.
budgets, we have small teams. When we say let's collaborate, people are like, you, poor you, we can't work with you, you can't pay me. But this is where community and long-term visions and effort come in
Yeah.
as well. And
Mm.
I think we're getting there bit by bit. To speak
Yeah.
to what you're speaking of relatability, shout out to Nouns On. Gosh, I'm just name dropping.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Now
Nouns
front.
On.
Yeah. That's
Do you know people playing Nouns On? There are more people outside Nigeria playing Nouns
playing
On
now
than
front.
in
Yeah.
Nigeria.
Yeah.
And the game is a game across all cultures. You just have different names. That's the name. If you don't know Nouns On, that's the name of Animal Place and Things. I
Yeah.
grew up doing it, playing it on paper, where we say, I call on letter B, and everybody starts writing quickly. And
Yep.
it gamified a very common experience and is getting a lot of traction. So,
Just to
we,
add
you,
to that, now
yeah,
on this,
yeah,
there's a streamer in Nigeria. I forgot his D-Max or something. Like
yes,
he
DMAC.
actually got a lot of viewers and
Yes.
whatever it is on Twitch just playing that. So you can already see what I'm trying to say with relatability. So like it's non-negotiable. It has to be
Yeah,
in this era.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. And I think more and more, that's why we also started the ARC Fellowship, because more and more we're beginning to see that what makes a game successful is not just the game. There's so much that goes into it. And why I still call us a sector becoming an industry is because we are still largely run by programmers and the creators. We need people that understand this distribution, that can even tell stories, right? Because a story is not just a story, how it's told, from what premise, from what point of view, all these things matter. And luckily, the industry is taking shape. We're having more people going, like someone saying he wants to learn game design, not game programming. We have narrative designers. We have people now saying they want to be community managers.
Mm.
This is awesome. But it also shows that there's a huge gap and there's still a long way we need to go. And whoever is coming in to build needs to also be aware of the amount of work that it would take to get there. But can we get there? It's possible. We're having our game studios winning global awards. We're having our games trending. Virago has like almost, I don't know, but more than 1 million followers on TikTok. And
Yeah.
his
Yeah.
game is focused on a social issue of child abuse, rape, or
Once
yeah,
again, relatability. That's just it,
relatability.
right?
Yeah.
You did a game based on something that is prevalent in society. So everyone, you follow the journey of a young girl who is, I think,
Yes. Yeah.
potential classmate, and so everyone is like you're playing a game that takes you through life, like a resemblance of what that could look like.
Look
So
like.
if you're not doing that, if you have the money to compete with the Activision, then all well and good, just like splash
Yeah.
in a triple A game. But
Exactly.
if not, you have to deal with relatability, and that's something that I don't see with most of the
Most
African.
games.
I'm sorry, most of the games I see from African, I don't see relatability at all, and I'm like, I have work to do. I have life and something like you're gonna have to give me relatability because
Relative.
I'm not going to come play a game that is about. I was going to talk about one game, but
Don't mention.
yeah, I'm
If
not
they
going to
come
mention.
for you,
But
I
yeah,
am
yeah,
not
yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm not going to play a game. I'll just use a random example. I'm not going to play a game about a guy just jumping over obstacle out of nowhere and it's a hyper casual game. No, there
You
are
and this
variation of that
jumping.
game. Yeah, I'm not going to play a game like that. But if the jumping relates to something, like
Hmm.
it tells a story that, oh, as you jump, it does this, it does that, or it tells me this about something that I can relate to, then I'll come, you know, every day to play that game. So you're right. Virago,
Yeah,
I love what that guy is doing. In fact, shout out Sunday Alcohol. Like he he's somebody that, I kind of like observe and study from afar. He's doing like a challenge on LinkedIn where he's talking about the commercial side of the
yeah.
games that he's pushing. And I'm seeing it, I'm like, yeah, this is I don't know.
Yeah, this is
But
it's trying something new now. Though that new game, yeah, I feel like there's some things in that new one, but with Virago, it killed it very well. It got
yeah,
his audience,
yeah,
and that is something really cool. Okay, we're really way out of time. We've spent
yeah,
like an hour, so we're just going to touch on the other report very briefly, and I'll give you some wrap up. But you see, I think everybody has gotten there's so much here, so much has been said, the fusion of culture, of relatability, of what is happening around, distribution, promotion, strategy, right? There are a lot of things we've spoken about: price points, player engagement, and even execution. In terms of quality, I'm happy to say we're also having good quality games. Like you look
yeah,
at closer look, you look at toss down, pristine quality. There are many games, and there are games that are making money. So even if it's not relatability, it also needs to be fun. That's another thing that most African games are missing. To be candid, they are not fun. A bulk of them are not fun. They're just games with characters moving around. There's so many things and there's so many angles. So
yeah,
let's move to the next one so we don't take much time.
yeah.
Um, yeah, so the next report we're just going to look at briefly. It's about a 72 page. I've dropped the link. Is the African Games Industry Report by Maliyo. Relatability needs to be explained more. Hey, book a session, five
Yeah,
hundred dollars.
you need to come. That's like the secret. That's like the
Yeah.
secret. It's a
So
secret sauce.
book Steven. I am his agent.
Yeah,
You
book me
can
through
bribe me.
Oscar.
You can bribe me. I can reduce the price, but you have to pay.
Yeah, yeah. Like and you see another thing I would just say with relatability just quickly is you just can't, because I've seen your comment like, oh, it's foreign driven. You just can't cook it up, right? You need data is also needed for this. So I've kind of like been doing a lot of things like in the background, just like talking with people, doing surveys and all of that. Like just light surveys just to get the idea of what that would look like. But I can assure you relatability is I I don't want to like drop so much thing, but it's a real issue, and you just have to analyze it from like a data angle. I've dropped some pointers before. Like it
Yep.
needs to be something that tells a story to like a segment of people, of audience. So audience segmentation also matters. I say audience, sorry, I'm thinking music. Player segmentation also matters, right? Trust me, the games that you would make that will probably attract, you get the UX for that. The games that you make that will probably attract, let's say, like an African in America will be different from a game that would attract, let's say, just Americans in general. So that also needs to inform your decision on what you want to create, right? Because if you create a
Yeah.
game that just speaks to Africans in North America, like we've seen, they are the highest player consumption for our games. Like then you're like, okay, does that game still relate to the general American populace that you can now, do both? Or do you think, oh, after your data, after your survey, the diaspora is just enough for me? And I can just like, so let's say the diaspora is like a 500,000 player base market. Is that enough for you? And then, so it's not just about cooking it up in the wild. It has to be informed through data, and it's something I'm happy to just discuss with people. Like,
Yeah.
of course, through Oscar will be. I don't think.
Yeah, and just to touch base on that, I just dropped two links. Check out Venba, the cooking game, the South Indian cooking game. Check out what the world is talking about south of midnight, that black game. Go and look at the interview. People are talking about that part where they could relate, their grandmother said this, their
Yep,
grandmother said that.
yep,
This is how you
I was going
build
to
a
mention.
game. Yeah.
I was going
So
to mention.
check those two out.
Yeah, the one
We
dropping
are
the sauce. So
yeah, and we can talk later. We are back. I said we are back. So maybe next month we have a Twitter space or something, but we'll take it step by step. But do your research as well, and you get there. But keep on building, keep on going. So very quickly, let's just look at this. I'm taking Steven's billable hours.
it's all good. It's
Yeah.
all good. It's all good.
So
So
this
we
is the African Games Industry Report by Malio. We've dropped the link as well. You can check this out. There are a couple of things here. This is the Games Industry Report. Malio is one of the most popular game studio across Africa. They run a couple of programs. You can check all of this later. There's just a lot of things. I don't know if there's anything you want to touch on here, Steven. Maybe I could just go there. Um,
uh it's to be honest, it's similar to the PC, to be honest.
okay.
Like
Yeah.
you can just go to the part about okay, the part about the survey where they surveyed.
Okay.
So basically, what did the report show? There is a year on year increase in studios. So, for example, I think in West Africa, it has increased from 7 to like 50 something studios. So, for me, that's a concern, not really something to celebrate, really, because if you are having, because now it shows that there's an increase in studio, right? So in West
Mhm.
Africa we have 50 something studios when it was just 7 previously. In South Africa there's also an increase in studio, but guess what, 90 something percent of these studios make less than $5,000 in revenue. So
Yeah.
why are we having so many studios? And so for me it's a concern. And um this report, I think I was going to mention another report that was done by PAG. It was like a geo something
Yes. Yes. Geopo.
geopo. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now in that report, they interviewed 2,000 plus active gamers, like not just mediocre gamers, like active gamers, and about 60 something percent of those gamers said they don't even know any African game. Like
Aye.
60 some, yeah, you can check it. PAG Geopo
Yeah.
2024.
I'm getting it.
Just Google it. About 60 something percent of active gamers don't know any African games.
Mm.
So this brings me back to the point I've been talking about, the discoverability. And even when they discover it, then even the other 30%, they were like, we know them, but we just it's just a game, like it doesn't relate or something. Like it's just like, oh, they just play it once and that's it.
They are
We're
just
done.
building.
They're there. So these are the data. These are the data. Yeah, yeah, good. These are the data people need to actually read
Yeah.
and be informed about. Like every other thing is there. Published games. The games are increasing. The investment, the income. About a large percent of the studios have no income. You can see that there.
Hmm.
60 something percent no income, 40 something percent income, but less than $5,000. So
That's
of
not income. That's an outcome of
that,
suffering.
oh, income is income, my brother. Income is
No,
income.
that is an outcome of being in the industry. You
That's an
can't call
outcome.
that
Okay.
income.
So like we need to read this data. Like I want industry stakeholders to read this thing. And this also goes back this also goes back to what you said, right? Oscar, in the beginning. You said we do you Africa Communicate doesn't just want to be involved in the training side, because like a lot of trainings are actually happen. And I want to say kudos to Gamer with the Gamer Labs, kudos to Malio with Game Up, kudos to Kuchesga. However, I'm just hoping that the work doesn't just stop at the trainings, because in my personal opinion, the work should go beyond the training. And this is there all the stakeholders are doing a great job in that
Yeah.
regard, but it has to go beyond that, because you know sometimes some of these people involved in this training, I kind of like try to catch up with them, and it's like, oh, I've done the training since nothing, I've not even been working in gaming industry. Some just go on to do other things. Like it's like a majority kind of statistic right now. Like if you have 10 people that go through the training, maybe like eight, maybe only one or two or Maybe
No
just
job. No, even the person training you, the job is training. It's not like he's building
that's what
game. No job.
exactly. But then Oscar, why is there no job is because like these guys, the studios don't just make the money.
Yeah,
Well, that can be rectified if we have, like we've said, a reimagination of games that one can be distributed properly, and then that two can resonate with the people in code. You see my hand in code that can actually pay for these games or that can actually give you much quality. So, for example, even with the so everyone knows hyper casual, hybrid casual, you make your majority of your money through apps, ads, right? The ad, the CP, this CP is the CP, the cost per acquisition for ads in
hmm,
Africa is it's penny on the naira or whatever we want to say. But if you have your ads trending or if you have your game trending like in North America, the ad there is so strong. So even with
yeah,
ads, let's not even talk about in-game purchases. Even with ads, the play is what we've been talking about for the past how many hour for the past 1 hour now. So if these studios, if we imagine the game, we imagine the distribution, and these two coupled together appeals and resonate with the people in quotes. Once again, please, everybody, I'm not saying I'm not like Oscar that is calling people broke or something. Me, I'm just saying people in quotes that can pay for these games or that the ad makes a lot of sense that it now brings home value. And guess what? If these local game studios are having value, they can employ talent, they can get talent on board, they can get serious. The revenue can be more than $5,000 right now. That's what the data says across PC and mobile. It's not a coincidence. It's not just a
yeah,
coincidence that on both ends, and the data gotten for both survey are from like two different avenues. For the
yeah.
mobile, it was direct from the studios.
Hmm.
From Steam, for PC, it was direct from Steam.
It's same. Yeah,
So it's a discussion that everyone needs to start to have, and that's just what that report says. It's just the same thing. The revenue is less, the the studios are increasing. I don't know why, but if you ask me, the studios should be reducing, because if the revenue is not increasing, then why do we have more eating into the pie? But that's a matter for another day.
yeah.
So yeah, so so my take on that report is there has to be once again an integrated ecosystem where it just go it the 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 ecosystem is now, what do I mean by integrated? It means that every value chain of the ecosystem is integrated, is linked together. So the person that is the talent, what am I ever saying? It starts from the player base. The player base is linked to the talent is linked to the studio is linked to the publishing, the publishing is linked to the exportation is linked to the promotion, the continuous promotion of the game,
Yeah.
the interaction with other cultural elements, music, film, whatever it is. So it's all integrated, but right now it's not integrated. Like there's a fragmental side of everything. Yeah, the player base is not connected to the game developer. We just had a survey, 2,000 active gamers. 60% says no, we've never heard. Not we've heard, we've not played. We've never heard of African games in our lives before.
They
Or
don't want to. Yeah.
but these are active gamers, Oscar. These are not
They are not our market.
Oh, okay, 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 okay. Okay, okay. I agree, I agree, I agree. Okay, so if you say so, so 2,000 active gamers, there's a problem. If they don't know about these games, that means that has to be integrated. Then also the talent too. They don't know about the studios, or you see somebody talking about
Exactly.
design here. Where is it? That's a break
Yeah.
in the integrated ecosystem. He's not supposed to be asking that question at this point. It's supposed to be integrated. So yeah, all of these, that's just what it boils down to be honest.
Wow. This has been an amazing conversation.
Yeah.
And I think I really learned a lot. I enjoyed it myself.
Yeah.
Um,
Same.
and I think it's a journey that we all are. I'm
Yeah.
proud to say the African games industry today was way better than it was when I started. Way better.
Really?
And yes, way better. Trust me. Back then, if you even say I'm a game developer, everybody looks at you like, are you joking or something?
Mm.
But now you can easily find a game developer across the
Oh yeah,
continent.
yeah, yeah. No,
There
no.
are more games. There's a massive reduction in endless runner games. Hallelujah.
Praise God. Me personally, I'm happy about that. Me personally,
Yeah. And
like,
people are trying more stuff. Even these Gen Z guys, they are doing really amazing stuff.
mhm.
So, a huge congrats to everyone. What I can say is, yes, I think the next stage is what you've mentioned, the integrated ecosystem. When we started Africa Communicate, we wanted to build a community, an ecosystem. And I think from my own perspective at Africa Communicate, we believe we've achieved that. That's
Mhm.
why we are not focused on training newbies anymore. We want more intermediate developer. After this last Spark Fellowship, we're focusing now more on intermediate. We're focusing more on the studios, which is what we've been doing since 2023. And we are seeing success because we believe for this industry to grow, the studios need to grow. If the studios don't grow, we are wasting time because you're pushing out talent. 15,000 people were fired from the global games industry. So you have experts with 10 years, 20 years, 30 years.
Export is not even an option right
Export
now.
of talent,
It's
no.
not an option.
And
So people need to
AI
know
is
that.
making people cut down even cost of
Yeah,
development.
it's not
So
an
we
option.
really need to fix ourselves. This is one of the things I
Good.
actually must say I think I love about the Chinese market. They built and owned their market. They made sure the people in their market can benefit from the market. Like movies come out and you go to Pirate Bay and get it. Till now, I'm angry by the way. I've not watched Nezha 2 till now. Nezha has been out since when? But if anything Disney releases tomorrow, you can see it on this pirated website. Till now, I'm still looking for Neja too. I have not seen it.
Yeah, they are
But it's
there.
because
So,
they own
yeah.
their market. If you're even bringing something in, you must do localization. If you
Yep.
don't do localization,
You must
but
publish with a
Africa
local
is
company.
just like a dumping ground. And that is not good. That is not helping us because we're not protecting ourselves, our intellectual property, our creatives. So we need an integrated ecosystem. And it's a lot, I won't lie, but that's what we want to focus on for the next 5 years. That's why you see in our programs, we are working with the World Intellectual Property Organization, we are working with legal people, we are looking at financial people, because the truth is, most people don't know. Right? Most of the creators don't know. Most of the creators don't have solid teams. When I say solid teams, it's not about loyal friends that are building with you. It's about complementary skill sets with experience, but a bulk of them are learning on the go. That's the problem. You see, it's
Yeah.
not like, oh, I've done 10 years in finance, I've done 10 years in marketing, I've done 15 years in game development. Let's form a studio. It is, I just finished a YouTube tutorial in game development. And hey, I studied accounting in school. We can do this.
Oh my god! David said something. I want to just speak on what David said. Oh my god! He
Yeah,
said our market is open. Foreign game studios dominate. Local development are not protected. One thing I would say, of course, I have a legal background. So one thing China has been able to do is you can't publish a game in China without a partnership with a local, what's it called now? With a local game publishing company. But you have to ask yourself, why is it like that? It's because their market is unavoidable. Like Activision cannot afford to avoid not publishing in China. So
yeah.
we now have to look inward. And like I just said, once again, people are doubting that report. Please, it's on GIA. Nigeria is a $10,000 at best, 15K or 20K or whatever spending a month. Plus your Call of Duty for your PUBG. I read
They
data.
missed
I'm
they
not
missed 2-0.
eh, I'm not cooking up data or you can
So
look.
are you saying the others are cooking up data? I
No, no,
call you
no,
before
no.
they got.
Me, I'm not
Eh,
cooking up.
they
I'm
missed
not
two
saying this
zero.
from my head. It's GIA report monthly. So imagine you telling Activision, oh yeah, come and partner with a local game to publish for a $15,000 monthly. Like they're just going to look at it like these people are just not even serious. So that's why we need to, like you said, Oscar, we need to fix ourselves internally. And like Benke has said on this call, right? He said like the price point, I don't know too much, I won't say
Yeah.
too much about the price point angle, but that could also be something, to look at, right? Because I don't believe Nigerians can afford like a $5 or $10 or something. We have the numbers, but like I said, it's mixed up with a lot of issues. So that's why the foreign guys will always have a play in Nigeria, because you can't tell them come and publish with what's it called? David, I'll use your company as this with Dimension 11. Dimension 11, how much can you give us in Nigeria market? There's just $50,000
Billions.
monthly spend.
Billions.
So they'll just look, they'll say Dimension 11, look, it's just $15,000. We are not going to, go through that legal everything. So that's why, and you know, everything that has to happen in the industry needs to happen from the business side of things before even all this legal even come into play, because people be like,
Yeah.
legal this, IP this. When people come to me for IP, I'm like, go and build game that people buy first before you come talk to me about IP. I don't,
Build
I don't.
IP warning games first.
That's
Ah,
why
you
I
guys
talk
are
about
rude.
it.
That's why creatives don't like you.
No, no, no. I talk about it, but in passing. But I'm like, you know what? Do this. Definitely, it's important, right? Because every creative work needs to be, um, every creative work needs to be, protected. But I'm like, don't just center the conversation. Legal, legal. Like I tell lawyers, like, is this topic is just for lawyers. Like,
Mm,
you don't just come and just talk about. Let's even, what is the value of all the gaming IP in Nigeria now? Is it up to $200,000 or something? Like all the IP, not just one studio, all of them. So you need to start to have these conversations and, like, put them together, and like, let's just come,
yeah.
together. So I'm just, tackling that. If you want to have like a legal requirement or something, the question is, how much can you guarantee that an activation is going to make in Nigeria on a monthly basis to even go through that hurdle of partnering with a local, gaming
Studio. Yeah.
crypto? I'm just saying it's in response to how China is
Why not?
tackling that and empowering their
Yes.
local studios.
Yeah, we'll get there. I have 1000% hope on the market, but it might take a long while. But I've seen growth. I've seen actual growth in this industry, and I'm excited. What I'm just scared of is focus. I
Yeah.
think we are too much in a hurry to make money instead of actually building the proper structures and foundation. People are not focused on their sectors. People are jumping around, and yeah, it's like everybody's rushing to cash out the Nigerian world, just make money and run away, whereas this is a long-term investment. The
Yeah.
games industry is evolving. We can say we are just starting. Before, it was just like three, four, five studios across sub-Saharan Africa, right? And even those studios were not really making revenue, surviving on grants and projects, right? And but now we want to build an industry, so we really need to have sincere conversations
True.
and see how we can build something long term that benefits. Of course, it's not going to benefit all, if we're being candid and realistic, but it should benefit a large number of people so that the markets can exist.
Yep.
So yeah,
Yep.
there's a whole lot to unpack, but we'll be wrapping it up. Yeah, I've taken a lot of time. I'm just going to share some quick updates with everyone. Please don't go anywhere, Steven.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I see the comments section is bubbling. You can just read. You can tackle it once I'm done. But
Okay.
yeah, so for everyone, we have one of the studios. Abby. Abby is from Ethiopia. Shout out to them. And Naturate Games. They are speaking at Awe US. That's I've forgotten the full name, but that's a global event. They're going to be representing Africa there. Shout out to them. There's a game jam coming up. Gway.io is back, and they have the Gway.io game jams where you're going to build games over a period of time. It has started. Go check Gway.io. I'll share those links later in the week. We also have some upcoming events. The Glitch Portal in South Africa, they are looking for support to go to Web Summit. If you can support them, they posted a link on LinkedIn. You can go there and support Glitch Portal. That's a South African game studio. I hope that's the right name. And Illusion Gaming as well is looking for support to go represent Africa at the Esports World Cup. We would also share that in the coming week. So please, please, please go check that. I'm going to be in Kenya in by the end of this month. So we're having a couple of mixers activities. We want to meet the game developers. Let's talk business, right? I'm not coming to teach you how to write code. No, please. let's talk business, let's look at your project, let's see how we can build this integrated ecosystem. Because I think for community is no more local. Whatever you're doing, you have to think, I use the word glocal, globally and locally,
Mm.
right?
Yep.
If you want to join a game development training or community, you can join anyone. There's so many Discord server. You don't have to be in a Kenyan or a Nigerian one. There are Kenyans in Nigerian communities. There are Nigerians in Ghanaian communities. You can work anywhere right now, right? But we really need to understand how to grow. That is the next stage. If you really want to keep on doing this thing you're passionate about, you need to really think of growth. And yeah, so we'll be in Kenya by the end of the month. Please, if you've not registered, yes, there's a price tag to the ticket. But if you're in any of the communities, the Indie Games Group Kenya, the Interactive Entertainment Association Kenya, if you're subscribed to Wendy at its newsletter, Brian the Beast, these are people that can give you 100% access to it at no cost. These are big leaders and they are covering the cost for you. So if you're in their community, you get access. Then Lagos Games Week is coming up June 19 to 21. I'm going to be there in Lagos, Nigeria. This is it second year? Yes, I believe second year. Last year I was in a couple of panels and all. This year I just want to go have fun, connect. And those who participated in the Echoes Game Jam we organized, some of them are going to come in and showcase their work. So I'll definitely be there. On the incubation side, we have the IGDA SIG Africa that has been formed. So the SIG is Special Interest Group in Incubation, and I am the regional co-lead. The regional lead for Africa is Douglas Ghetto, and the idea is all incubation programs. How can we come together to also create a strong front, a unified curriculum that can be modified for the regions and drive policy and changes on the African continent? So this is something I've suddenly put myself in so that we can also drive the business side more. And in the coming week, this April, we'll be having the Spark Fellowship Demo Day. So, yeah, that program has taken longer than anticipated, but I'm happy with what we have so far. And a couple of people have already gotten internships. Some are still looking for more. So it's time for them to show the world what they've done, and we see how things are going. And yeah, I just wrap up with they would wrap up now, but just to reiterate what Steven has said, I mean, he has said so many things. I don't know where to start from. Watch the video again from the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we are looking at distribution, we're looking at quality, we're looking at having strategy where partnerships, community would all come inside. Quality games, distribution, strategy. You must know what to build, who you are building, where are they, how
Yep.
you would make. And don't deceive yourself, you can't do it alone. And you're going to fail along the way. Yeah. You some days I've gone through stages of depression, I've gone through stages of burnout. You might be wondering why I am not so online. I just like and repost. I'm going through a lot. But I see all these lovely posts. I am thrilled. I'm excited. I have not been thrilled at all. I have not been thrilled or excited at all. I cannot
Oh,
be saying this industry is worth 200 billion and I don't have 100 million in my account. But
oh
we're
my.
going to work towards it together.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm very excited. So, any words you want to share to everyone?
Yeah.
So,
I would, just to cap it up, like everyone right now, all the stakeholders are doing amazing job because one thing I always say, having been in the industry, is it's easy to just say, "Oh, this is the solution. These are the solutions." But when you're in it, it's like different. So shout out to everyone executing. Like you guys are doing, no matter what it is, you're doing a wonderful job. But like Oscar said, there's more to come, and there's a journey. And one thing I do is like people that know me, I support like a lot. Of course, these days I'm more like I need money now, but I support. I could be like that sometimes, but everyone knows like I support a lot, like with all of these things, and I see how all these things, kind of like move all this moving part. So, one thing I would say is observe globally. Just don't build what you're building in isolation. Read Sense Tower, read Navic, read Games Industry Biz. Read all of these reports to understand, because first thing you will know is the industry is going through the industry is going through a reset. So if you're coming from a talent position, it's hard to even talk about talent now from an exploitation perspective.
Perspective.
And I
Yeah.
tell people this, I'm so glad it's happening because now it forces us to course correct and say, in the past, everyone is like, oh, tech industry, you explore, which is good. But now in the gaming industry, like it's so hard. So now everyone has to course correct internally. We need to
Yeah.
create value for ourselves. The talent, you're going to get money if your game sells well. That's just the naira, or that's just the CDs, that's whatever currency you spend. That's just the ABC of it. Economics 101. You need to make
Yeah.
money to spend it. So if you're going to get more talent involved, your studios need to make money, your games need to make money. And how does that come in? It can't be possible without, once again, it can't be possible without an integrated ecosystem. It's just so hard. I give this example a lot to so many game developers that come to me. I say, if I go to a secondary school in Nigeria and I ask this student, do you know this game? If they tell me no, you're failed. For me, you failed. And I'm
They
not
are
just
not our audience. So
they are not your audience. Okay. If secondary school students are not your audience, then I wonder who the audience would be. So I just say that, like, if I go to a secondary school and I ask and they don't know your game, you failed. That might be a very harsh test, but it is what it is, because these are the people that need to come together into this integrated ecosystem to make sure everything shine. Because like people like will say, oh, the market is $10,000 spending. It could be more. Like Benki has said, if it's priced locally, for example, you are operating in Nigeria, is something that this guy, I would advise people to go read. I don't have the link, but Jason Njoku, he released a blog
yeah.
recently talking about reimagining funding in Africa. He said we need to raise in naira, to invest in naira, to do this in naira. Everything has to be locally. So that's where we need to go through now as a continent, because I really advise everyone to read that Jason Njoku's blog, reimagining funding in Africa. Basically, the essence of it is raise in naira, spend in naira, account to your investors in naira. Although it's easier said than done, because then where are you going to get somebody that's going to invest 100 million in naira? Yeah, he talked about media, because Jason is involved in Iroko TV. So he's talking about,
Yeah.
you need to, if for example you collect 100 million from an investor, you are spending 100 million. You are not accounting for FX change or all of these things. You are spending 100 million in Nigeria. So we need to imagine all those things. Like Bengi has said, if your price point is local, everything is local, maybe that's a change. I don't know. I don't have data to support that, but maybe. So to just cap everything up, let everyone move towards that goal of having an integrated ecosystem, and let's all be more data oriented. Like, actually read this report and get insights to inform how you develop your game, how you interact with your players, how you then take your game to the public, who you take it to, where you take it to, so you don't waste your time, and all of these things. I gave an example of Raven Illusion Studio, for example. If they had done data, they would have known from the fact that Africa wasn't even on the topic of people they should be targeting. Maybe, I don't know, because when they published, they now realized that most of their players were coming from Brazil, Portugal, Spain, all of these places, and they had to now quickly work their way around localization. If you read the article I read, they had to use ChatGPT and all those things. So that's just my conclusion, as Oscar has disconnected and everything. So guys, please, let's all work towards that, and bless the gaming industry. We'll keep moving ahead. Thank you. Oscar is disconnected.
Yeah.
Oh,
Nigeria happened to me for just a minute.
oh, oh yeah.
They
Basically,
they
I basically
they
concluded what I
my
have to
power.
say. And if anyone wants to reach me, you can reach me to Oscar. Oscar is my agent. Oscar will be the one to do that.
Woo! Full time job. I like this. I like this. Yeah.
Let your
Uh,
cut from what you're charging. Don't beat me for money though.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think everything has been said. All I will
Yep.
just wrap up with nice. And please, if you have a link to that Jason Joker stuff, maybe you can just drop it on the comments later. Yeah, or even now. But yeah, so all I just like to say is, firstly, I would let me bring my East African accent. My colleagues, relax. Money will come. But for money to come, we need to do the work. We need to prepare the soil. We need to do things better. And I'm not going to lie, I think Africa definitely is the next frontier. But there's so much work to be done to make it. So what we have now is a potential market. And if we don't do things right, we are going to miss out. Whether we like it or not, Africa is going to be monetized. Billions are being made on the continent right now. So if we don't invest in setting those structures ourselves, somebody else will set it. They said Spotify paid out, is it $50 billion to its creator, $50 million.
Yep.
And a bulk of the African musicians that earn good money, they earn from platforms like Spotify. Spotify is not an African owned company. So when you're also thinking about this industry, something I've started pushing out there is think beyond the restrictions people have put on us. If you are working in the games industry, it's not even compulsory you are building games. You can work on the marketing side. There's a huge divide. Game developers don't know how to market and position themselves. Start now and become that go-to agency. All the big studios we have, they are not the one doing everything themselves. They outsource. They work with other studios. Even coding, like 24 bits in South Africa, what they do is tech support. They don't build their own original IP, but they have the best programmers to build any game for the global market. Think beyond the restrictions. Because you're in games doesn't mean you have to be a game developer. You can build software for game developers. You can build tools. You can build services. And you can go beyond the sector. Think adjacent, vertical, horizontal markets. You can go into education. You can go into real estate. You can go into many things. At the end of the day, it's an art. And don't forget, any art or sector that is flashy and all, just as in the music that we are using as example, for every 1 million, for every one successful musician artist, there's like 3,000 that are never going to be successful. So you have to also focus on the reality. Same with movie as well. You see, there can be 300 people in a movie, but you remember only maybe just 10. So you need to understand the market you are in and you need to diversify. You are not stuck to build games, PC or mobile. You can build other things that are gamified, experiences. You can go into gamification, go into game based learning, and also move with the wave of technology, AI, Web3. I'm not saying you must. Do your research and make your own informed decision. I strongly believe in this sector. I think yeah, this sector is going to become very important and very useful and profitable, but only for those who are able to get to the finish line. So, um, yeah, I think thank you all for spending time with us. I really enjoyed. You guys made my Sunday special. Thank you, Stephen. This was awesome. I couldn't have done this without you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thanks for the invite.
Yeah.
Yeah, so much
Okay.
to accomplish this year, but let's get
Yeah, yeah,
grinding.
yeah. Nice, nice. We're ready. Okay, then. So with that, we'd say goodbye to everyone. Bye
Bye,
bye.
guys.